Mic up. Cool, cool. How's everyone doing? It has been a hot second since I've done the live stream stuff. Um, Big reason for that was I talked about this a little bit over in my Discord, but there's a new law that got passed around live streaming that we've had to be a little bit careful about uh, regarding. Hey, Freezy, what's going on? Um, New law regarding stream content. What is copyright? What isn't copyright? Because if you violate this new law, they're talking about effective punishment being a felony. So I'm being very careful now. I'm double checking all the licenses and everything because I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, I took a short break just to try and research what I think is legal or not legal to stream. But anyways, for today, what I thought would be really fun is like I don't really have a lot going on tonight. Was dealing with a migraine yesterday, but today we're going to be looking at the dancer class that I got started on. And the whole concept with the dancer is that in D&D, like this first started out as a thought experiment because I started writing a dance bard like as a subclass, and I thought that the idea was there. I thought that bard being able to use movement, like yeah, I think it's pretty simple with bard, right? You can replace verbal components with somatic ones, and only need to supply somatic components for spells or something. Um, Doing it as a full class is a little bit rough, and really I took it on as a like experiment because I wanted to see if you could do movement as a resource to do like something on the same power of bardic inspiration. It's very hard to do so. But yeah, I've been checking out some different video games that have done dancers in the past. There is a pretty consistent through line I'm seeing where more often than not they are like non-magical classes. So I think that we are going to stick with that. And like some people were asking, like whenever I made the merchant, why why is the merchant this or this? And I was like, I think of the merchant as charisma's answer to artificer, and I think that the dancer is going to be charisma's answer to the monk. So like we can make a cool support possible, like harass, pop in and out kind of a character with this. The kind of research that I do before I really get started on a class concept is I like to look at base classes and see like, okay, what could I really easily compare this to? And I think the one that I most easily could compare this to with was monk. And if we go over here, you guys will see this is kind of the outline work that I got started with, where I was trying to figure out what is we've said this several times before in the past, a scaffolding of some sort. For monk, if I was trying to reduce down what their class features are to the most like base level, what could I classify those as, right? So for monk at their first level, we have a defensive feature, which is their unarmored defense, a scaling attack mechanic. So this is for their unarmed strike die getting bigger as they level up. They are their martial arts die scaling as they power up. They have a power resource through T at their second level. They have a positioning tool through unarmored movement given to them at second level. They get a subclass choice with certain features. Defensive to offensive feature. This is just deflect missiles. An ability score improvement, something to help out with defensive features for hazards. An offensive feature, this is going to be for... let me just pull up monk. What was it? Oh, extra attack. That's right. They get extra attack, and then a foundational control feature, so this is stunning strike. An offensive feature, overcoming resistance, so this is their key empowered strikes. Positioning tool enhancement, their unarmed movement gets a nice bump. Damage defense, condition defense, ability score improvement. So you guys can see, like, if I'm just doing... Oh, hey, stranger, thanks for coming by. If we are just reducing down class features to what they are in the simplest of terms, right? Yeah, there is something that can deal damage, right? So we're going to call that an offensive feature. If it improves your armor class, then we're going to call it a defensive feature. I just wanted to see what kind of Wizards of the Coast paced out the monk around. And monk might not exactly be a great scaffolding for that, because like they get a lot more out of their third level than I think a lot of other classes do, because they get their subclass choice, and their subclass gets some features. If you look at like their fifth level, they're getting Stunning Strike as well as extra attack. So they get a lot out of those two levels that many other classes don't necessarily get. Dancers in most video game RPGs are support characters. Some do buffs, debuffer. Some let others get another turn, but usually they're support based. So the whole thing with you getting another turn is a mechanic I want to put into the base dancer. I completely 100% agree with that. But that is so good in D&D compared to like an RPG, right? Or compared to like a JRPG. Because like in a JRPG, like, oh man, there's just not as much that you can do in a JRPG that you can with an TTRPG. It's like the action economy that you're shifting right there is so massive. So that's the kind of thing that I think you would have to tie behind, like, man, what does a samurai get that at? Like 18th level? Samurai, let me take a look. Pull this over here. Just so you guys can see what I'm looking at. There we go. Alright, so yeah, Strength Before Death. Strength Before Death is super situational, but it's super good in those situations, right? In the event that you fall, well, I say it's super conditional. Super situational. Super conditional. In that, you have to drop to 0 hit points. So, once you drop to 0 hit points and you have your reaction, you can delay falling unconscious. Right? Yeah, you can use your reaction. Immediately take an extra turn, interrupting the current turn. So, like, what I think is cool with that idea is you're going to, as a dancer, have to forego your turn in order to give somebody else their turn. Because it is interrupting the action economy that way. Maybe if they immediately take their turn after yours. But, like, oh, man, one of the mechanics I really wanted to do was play around with initiative order so that you as a dancer can do this and then, what, you know. But there is something that feels a little bit magical about that I want to, it's like, another part of the reason why I picked Monk was because Monk is non-magical but also feels like kind of mystical. So, like, it maybe feels a little bit closer to that flavor. But, no, turn manipulation is something I definitely want to do. And I think especially with a class that isn't going to reward you for, like, playing, like, super attack heavy, it's going to... that should be the kind of power that you get out of taking such a heavy support character. Cutting in. Oh, that is so perfect. Oh, man, I love that. Yes, okay, that is for sure going to be a thing. Dancer seems like they would have good evasion. They will. They have a great evasion feature in here. I'm still trying to play with. I would imagine this wouldn't be a caster, right? No, I'm going to avoid trying to make this a spellcaster. I'm going to do everything I can. Because even though some games feature the dancer as a spellcaster or like a magic user, that's typically only in like Square Enix games that I've really seen that. And even then they do it with a very light touch. I think the most like dancer kind of a class or character archetype I can think of that really defines what I want the class to be is probably going to be Primrose from Octopath Traveler. And sure, she gets like dark magic over there, but like we can do that as a subclass. But all the core class features for the dancer feel really good in Octopath Traveler. I can see a support caster that isn't a cleric getting the same amount of skills it gets probably isn't. Yeah, spellcasting just eats up so much of your power budget, though. I really want to try to avoid that. And I think if we're going to do a movement-based resource like this, we cannot give them a spellcasting feature, because that is so good. Yeah. Do you want the dancer class to have the most out of its features to be baseline or subclass based? And so that's an interesting question. I think mechanically, a lot of its features are going to come from the class, right? That's a really good thing with like a class like Druid. Druid has, and Wizards of the Coast has realized this here lately. Druid has a resource called Wild Shape that like was kind of hidden as a design like resource for a little while. There were only homebrewers that were really using it as a resource to fuel other class features. But now you can see in like Circle of the Stars Druid, Wizards of the Coast is moving towards like, let's let you do other stuff with your Wild Shape. And it's really helping to make different kinds of druids kind of like come out, you know? Because this whole idea with like a wild shape-shifting druid isn't exactly the kind of thing that I think everybody's really wanting out of the class. And it feels really bizarre that something that's so that seems so specific towards a certain kind of druid is so tied into the core concept of the class. I think if we get a 6th edition anytime soon that repurposes some of 5e mechanics, we're going to see Wild Shape specifically become like an external resource. Maybe, I don't know. It should be interesting. Should be interesting. Yeah, cutting in, I'm going to save that. How do the Fire Emblem Dancers really work? Let's take a look. Wondering how loud this is going to be for you guys. Dancer. Class outfits. There we go. Olivia. Okay. I don't want, like, I just want to see, like, okay, dancer class. Can we just see, like, their abilities? Come on, how has someone on YouTube not done this yet? Fire Emblem. Abilities, maybe? I'm not seeing anything that has... I don't know, if any of you all find a video that shows, like, a cool lineup of their abilities or something, that'd be really sick. If you can post it in chat. I'm going to look up... I'm going to see what they usually do in the game. Just get a list of their abilities. That is not telling me anything. That's just stats. Okay, cool. So, alright, let's get into the really interesting things with this. And this just reminded me of that. So, with the dancer, and I'll pull up the InDesign file now. There's been a few changes. Flare is going to be the foundational thing for this whole class. I've been passing this off to a few different designers, trying to see what other people's opinions were about this mechanic. It is very unfinished right now, and I think that in its current state, may give you... Man, I'm trying to simplify this, but it's very hard to simplify what could be a very easily exploited mechanic. I have an idea as to how I want this to work in my head, but getting it on, like, in sentence form is very, very tricky. I have quite a lot, but they're mostly just ideas. I was thinking about making it... Oh, yeah, this is totally just a joke from my Discord server. I made the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z into a mechanic for D&D. So, while I have a lot on here, it's very much undone. Or unfinished. There's some ideas for the different subclasses that I've got on here. Let's get that. Let's get you over here. There we go. Some of the different ideas for the subclasses that people in my Discord server have come up with that I really, really dug. I knew I was going to make a metal, like, mosh pit kind of a dancer. So the choreo of Thrash is going to be that. Choreo of the Court, I forget who it was. If it was either, like, Not a Dog or... oh, man, I forget who it was over in the Discord server. But this was such a cool recommendation. that this is going to be a dancer subclass that's completely focused around nobility and this idea of like waltz and like courtly ballroom dancing. And I was like, okay, that feels like we're going to get a super high, narratively strong kind of a class concept out of that. The choreo of Mirth is going to be a sort of fey dancer, kind of around based around like Celtic jigs. Choreo of Moonlight. This is just super an homage to Primrose from Octopath Traveler. Choreo of the Rally is going to be a war dance inspired dancer. I'm trying to shy away from anything that's going to theme this around like Polynesian haka. Yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm going to have to do kind of the same thing that like Watsy did with the like College of Valor Bard in a way. But it's going to be very much like frontline kind of a dancer. Choreo of Blades, sword dancing. Choreo of Liturgy is going to be kind of a healer, sort of cleric-y feeling dancer. Choreo of Romance, there's a mechanic that I wrote in here to where you have a dance partner, and that dance partner, yeah, it takes two. That dance partner gets certain benefits. And the Choreo of Romance, I kind of like this in thought of the like College of Eloquence Bard, where that is the most like bardic inspiration bard there is out there. Choreo of Romance is going to be very much that. Or like you think of Drunken Master Monk being the most like flurry of blows monk there is. Choreo of Romance is very much going to be that. And the Choreo of the Weaver is going to be the half cast, or the quarter caster, whatever you want to call it. But that was another thing where the thought of it being that you are a dancer that's able to like tease the weave and tap into it and cast spells that way. So I need to mess around with this a little bit more. Based a little bit on Eldritch Knight, and I think that the way I want to roll with that is probably a little bit more based on Blade Singer. Let me get caught up in chat real quick. So, oh yeah, that's right. I need to write Cutting In. That is such a good name for that. I got Evasion on there. But that needs to be a little bit later. See, I thought about Intermission, but Intermission is always like a pause in between things. And like, it would make sense if it was like, you pause, someone else gets to take their, or you pause, nothing can happen, and then whatever. But I think Cutting In makes way too much sense for that. Now, you need to be able to give somebody else... I'm just writing down the idea for the mechanic right now. You give someone else to immediately take... I don't know that it can be really a full turn. I think it needs to be an action. Just an action right now. Take an action, interrupting the current turn. Now, whenever we're thinking about that, we have to think about spellcasting. Because the rules for spellcasting on your turn are not always going to be super kind to that. Look into... Because, like, with the rules for spellcasting, it's like, if you use the spell slot to cast a spell, during that turn that costs an action... I just need to refresh myself on all that. That is such a... Oh, my God. So that's Cutting In. And Fire Emblem Dancers give an extra turn. Yeah, we're going to add that in there. That have activated... Oh, okay. Dancers give an extra turn to units that have activated already. So maybe tie it into Initiative 2. I had thought about that with Break a Leg, where the idea is you roll for initiative, and then during your first turn in combat, while your speed is higher than 0, you can use a help action to aid an ally that you can see within 60 feet of you as an action, bonus action, and reaction, which is insane. Now, like, if I say during your first turn... Oh, no, that doesn't encompass everything. Okay. It is... Break a Leg is super, super strong, because you're able to give 3 different things, like, advantage on their, like, attempt on that first return to combat. So that's super nuts. I'm gonna take a look at that again because I think with Break a Leg, the thing that I like about it is like this should be like immediately after you roll for initiative, something happens. That feels like that fits. Not only does it feel like a really great starter for this class, right? Break a Leg feels like a great kind of an artistic introduction into the class. But like, if you start this off really cool, really strong, with an interesting first level kind of a bump, or a first level mechanic, it really feels like it just sets up the rest of your class to just flourish. So with Break a Leg, I want to really, really nail down what this means. And I think maybe even for that first round of combat, I'm trying to think of something that's interesting that isn't just repurposing Bardic Inspiration, right? Bardic Inspiration is such a remarkable support tool, but like, I want to write something that feels like we're getting away from the idea of Bardic Inspiration, and it offers something that could be on the same level of power, but isn't just rewriting Bardic Inspiration. And I've been giving it time. I've actually been talking with Heavy Arms a lot about this one. Heavy Arms, Ross Leiser, Benjamin Huffman have all been offering some help on it so far. But yeah, so Benjamin's the one that actually convinced me to move away from making this a dance-like state to where you enter this state where you are dancing as an action, and it just never felt 100% right on. But I do like the idea that we've got here with Flare. That is a resource generation engine, so we'll talk about that here in a second. Let me see here. Usually the support base. Where did I go? Okay, tied into initiative 2. That is... Could I do that? I don't think it's smart to do. You can give a number of creatures advantage on initiative rolls equal to your charisma modifier. I think that's way too much out of a first level feature. Yeah, I think that's really just way too good as a first level feature. You getting advantage on initiative rolls is really, really good. This is going to help you go first. Now, what is the incentive out of you going first? Well, you are going to be the big buffer debuffer, is what you're going to be doing. And you really want buffer debuffers going first. You would think it would be like you want, your damagers going first or whatever. I think in D&D, really what's most helpful, I mean, I'm sure others could disagree with me here on this, and that's totally fine. But what you really want happening in the first round of combat is you want your supports to go first. I think your supports... Your supports are going to be able to, number one, more easily access probably everybody, because chances are when you roll for initiative, all your party's going to be grouped up. There are situations where it doesn't happen, but in most situations, your party's usually grouped up. If they're grouped up, and the support gets to go first, it's very easy for the support to throw buffs on the person that you want going next, which is going to be your frontliners. Because you want your frontliners to be able to get in and draw aggro so that your backliners can get into position to more easily and effectively deal damage and not be super scared of taking damage in return. And then ultimately, after backliners, after frontliners, after your supports, all that stuff, you want your healers. I think that healers make the most sense going at the very tail end of initiative. And I think that's why you see a lot of people, especially in D&D 5e, favor... strength-based cleric, because you're not having to build super high into dexterity. You get your proficiency in heavy armor, so you're not really worried about building into dexterity for anything. And if you're going last, not only is that really great for all your heals and whatever, you don't mind so much being at the brunt of damage because you've got your high AC and you can heal it up if you take it. So yeah, I think that there's an interesting thought with the initiative order with that. But yeah, we really definitely want the dancer as a support going right up in front. So this is going to help them do that. And I don't think them just having initiative or advantage on initiative rolls is going to be a huge, huge deal. And then talking about my... Yeah, so if we're looking at this with the scaffolding of the monk. Defensive feature of accuracy reduction because they get their improved, their arm. Okay. Scaling attack mechanic. Maybe this should be a scaling support mechanic. Hang on. I'm gonna think about that. Yeah. I'm gonna think about that. Okay. Sorry, a lot of people have been asking questions. I know it's there's a lot going on with this class. Let me take a look. Okay, got to Freezy Pop. To lead for combat-based. You take the lead for combat-based trades. Okay. Maybe some 8th or 10th level ability that changes the initiative of a monster with a player of your choice, or straight up buff like giving a d6d8 to your allies that increases as you level up. So yeah, if we do that, that touches a little bit too hard on Bardic Inspiration. But Bardic Inspiration is a good mechanic. It's just that we're going to have a resource generated through here with Flare that I want to see what I can do to keep it tied into that. And if not, I think ultimately I may wind up just doing a Bardic Inspiration-like mechanic, because I think at the end of the day, people don't mind so much if it's the same, as long as it's not a blatant, like, all the features and everything are still the same, right? Like, if I give you a Bardic Inspiration die that, like, doesn't do the exact same stuff as Bardic Inspiration, I think people are a lot more forgiving of that. Whereas, like, if you look at some of the psionic talents that appeared in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, a lot of people have called those out as just re-skins of Battlemaster maneuvers. So, like, you know, I think people are a little bit more forgiving for more... They don't mind you using the mechanic, as long as you don't just slap the mechanic on there. Yeah. Let me see here. With such fluid momentum, this is I think it's possible to gain an attack reaction on successful dodges with weapon. You know, that could be something really cool for the Choreo of Blades. Like, here at 6th level, not necessarily giving them an extra attack, but like, if you... Or wait. Ooh, that is a really great idea, actually. Okay. If you successfully... Okay, if you are targeted with an attack... Okay, if you are targeted with an attack that misses you, can use your reaction to a I can see I'm not super worried about getting all the wordage right now. King creature? Like, that works, but I think that feels a little bit clunky in the action economy. Okay. When you take the dodge action, if you're targeted with an attack while you're taking the dodge action, you can use your reaction to make an attack against... Oh, God. Okay, so there's a cool idea there. I'm going to get back to that. I don't want to tie it into too many conditions, but I like the narrative of that. So I'm gonna sit on that for a second. But yeah. Okay. No, I really like that. Thank you a lot, Psychotech. That was a really, really cool idea. What do you call it? Fluid momentum. I like that idea. Yes, 100%. I like the name, everything like that. That sounds pretty sick. It's like riposte or something. Maybe fluid riposte? Well, momentum is the one that keeps it... I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls, so, like, riposte is super on my mind right now. I just... Oh, man. I had played Dark Souls all the way up to the ending, like, back, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. Never went all the way through to beat it, because I just got super furious with the Beta Chaos fight and just threw it down and never picked it back up. Finally, last night, 100% beat Dark Souls. Like the first Dark Souls for the first time in my life. I was like, oh my god. It took me like 15 retries to beat Beta Chaos. The most frustrating fight I've ever had in a video game. At least Gwyn feels like you've got to just kind of get good, right? Like, legitimately the advice of like, no, just get good. Yeah, you just learn to riposte better, and then like the Gwyn fight is not super, super hard. Beta Chaos is just straight up, you better pray to RNGesus that you don't get the flames or the SWAT every time. Like, Beta Chaos should be a study in how never to design a boss fight again. That is a terrible, terrible boss fight. Worst I've ever had in the series. Oh, man. I like the idea of fluid momentum, maybe repause. Yeah. Okay. I do like that idea a whole lot. Okay. Makes me think of like Kung Fu, using evasive movement while using it to attack in one fluent motion. Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of Cowboy Bebop, so Spike Spiegel is also like a really big inspiration for the evasive kind of like dance combat that this could do. So that's another idea. So it was maybe like 2 years ago, but Reddit had a homebrew dancer class called Companion, and it had solo steps, duet steps, and tempo points in the class table. So I might take a look at that later, once I get further into the design. Like, I don't want to really look at anybody else's concepts until I've gotten something of my own, like, out there. I don't want to be unintentionally inspired by something and then feel like it's just too good for me not to use it, you know? I don't know. I just don't think that that's a really great thing to do as a designer. But no, I'd like for everything to feel very original leading out. And then maybe once I get to like, you know, all 20 levels are written, I might take a look at some other ones and see like, maybe somebody else had like a really cool small mechanic here, you know, like maybe like an idea for flair. But I'll only ask if I can like reprint it in a way if I feel like it's something that I will include that is mechanically different. I just think that's a good policy to keep up. What sorts of subclasses are you envisioning? Like dance styles? Yeah. Let me run through them real quick. So the subclasses are all going to be called your dancer choreo. Choreo is just the short word for it. It just kind of means like a dance style. The choreo of blades is going to be our like sword dancer. Choreo of the court is going to be a very high nobility sort of courtly ballroom. And as a musician, I'm thinking like, all right, if it's themed around the waltz, what's some cool ideas we can do for like a 3/4 time signature kind of a thing? The choreo of liturgy is going to be a clericy prayer based kind of a subclass. Choreo of mirth is going to be a fey Celtic jig dancer. The choreo of moonlight is, so I said, I think Mr. Rex just did a video on Illustrae, who's a drow, like, I think neutral good goddess, or chaotic good, I can't remember. But Illustrae is one of the only goddesses of dance in the Forgotten Realms, and I really dug her lore. So I wanted to kind of root it in that, and also Primrose from Octopath Traveler, who is the like main inspiration behind this whole entire class. Choreo of the Rally is going to be a war dance inspired dancer. Choreo of Romance, there's a mechanic in here for a dance partner, and that's going to be like the strong dance partner one. The Choreo of Thrash is going to be a straight up mosh pit sort of a dancer. And then the choreo of the Weaver is going to be the sort of third caster, akin to Eldritch Knight, or I thought about Four Elements, but there's no way I can do a mechanic like Flare with the power that Four Elements gives you. That was just going to be way wonky. Yeah. You have a lot already. I was thinking about Capoeira. Yeah. And with that, I think you could just do a Dancer Monk multi-class. And get the Capoeira sort of a theme across. I want to avoid touching on anything that's very culturally specific because, it's just like I did with the samurai. Like, I have to admit, whenever I'm like, I don't know enough to really speak on the lore of something. So I think if that's the case, I shouldn't really be, like, writing as if I was emulating that in a class, if that makes sense. I think you might be able to get that kind of a dancer out of going either pugilist or monk multi-class with dancer. But yeah, hopefully at the end of the day, that's what you can do. Um, should I have just improved a song regardless of how stupid I felt? I'm not sure what that's supposed to. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Thinda. Tactics, okay. What does a dancer scale off of? You said charisma? I thought it'd be dex. So, that is an interesting thing. Dex is going to be, like, very important to it. I like the idea of flair still being tied into charisma for this idea of it's, like, the overall beauty that you exude that causes these effects. The overall beauty is, like, distracting or whatever. And sure, that could still be an argument for dexterity. I might go back and forth on that. I'm not super sure. But I do... I would like for charisma to essentially only be what, like, resource pools are scaled off of for this, and not necessarily always, like, the save DCs for everything. There are way too many charisma casters and charisma classes in D&D as it is. So, like, yeah, it would be nice to kind of get away from that. But, then again, there's so many dexterity-based classes, So, like, it's a little rough. But it's something I'm considering. Dexterity is going to be a major, major thing that's going to pay off for the dancer. I just think it needs that. Let me take a look. The first ability should be renamed The Curtain Rises. Oh, that's pretty great. Yeah, either, like, Curtain Rises, maybe, like, I think Break a Leg is just a little bit more, like, right there, bam, start of initiative. It feels like, whereas Curtain Rises feels a little bit more like theater than I think necessarily dance. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Maybe a specific boost for this ally in initiative. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, that's a cool thought. Okay, you said this is from Plastic Pox or Blastic Pox. Maybe a specific boost for the next ally in initiative. Something that gives an ally a boost his next round, but you have to keep concentration. Hey, Brian, thanks for subscribing, man. Gives you start your next initiative and turn that way. You know what? That's interesting because it's making you strategize and think a lot more about. Hey, Nathan, thanks for subscribing. Thinks a little bit more about initiative positions. But like, oh man, yeah, it's interesting, but like telling the narrative of that, I don't know. It's an idea. Maybe it's restricted around like, what creatures are near you in initiative. I don't know. I'll think about that. But that is a cool idea. Let me make sure I don't really skip anybody. Okay. A few more of these, and then we're going to go back to talking about this one. So how about an ability that scales with large groups with a limit per day? Maybe like a number of creatures you can affect with it, or something like that. I think that might be a cool idea. Number of creatures that you can affect with a certain dance increases at certain levels. I don't know. Yeah, it's a thought. The thing I want to get away from, because I feel like I'm so tempted to do this, because it's such a great design idea, is I want to get away from basing everything off of like Warlock invocations, because I feel like with Warlock invocations, you can make a super customizable Warlock with that, right? Like, your Warlock invocations are a lot of space for you to really flesh out your character concept. And while I really like it, I'm always so tempted to make every single class feel like it's got Warlock invocations. And I am really trying to get away from that. So, like, I don't want to just do a whole lot, like, long lineup of dances that you can pick from that despite it definitely feeling kind of in theme for it. But oh god, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. One of the things I had thought about for the dances was like if it calls for an attack roll, it uses your dexterity, but then if it uses a saving throw, it uses your charisma, which kind of roots it into feeling kind of like a quasi magical character. And I thought that felt pretty interesting, especially because Monk does the same thing where they use dexterity for the attacks and then they use wisdom for all the saves and their like key stuff. So like it's kind of already there, you know. It's not super far fetched. But yeah, that was a thought. Another capoeira, yeah. That's gonna be probably done through a monk. Yeah, like a monk pugilist multi-class or something. How do you see a baseline dancer playing, assuming it'll be like Rogue, where the baseline is largely the same across the class? I think that if we, like, talking about the positioning in combat, right? Like, we just did that video the other day about zones, frontline, midline, and backline. Your dancer is going to be a midliner, because you want to be in the middle of combat, in between everybody, not, like... You don't want to take a whole lot of damage, so we need to be able to give them a lot of good disengagement tools, which feels totally great for the dancer, right? I think dodge or disengage can be looked at as the main things that this class is going to be doing as its action. So how can we incentivize the dancer to keep doing that and make it pay off? Well, I think if you're staying in the midline, the interesting thing with the dancer, though, is that it's going to be kind of hard for you to buff up your frontliners, because your frontliners are going to be facing the enemy. So if you're staying in the midline, in between, you know, your frontliners, the enemy, and then your backliners, your frontliners aren't always going to be able to see you and get your buffs. Your backliners are, but like what's going to be more interesting is the enemy is usually always going to be able to see you. So the dancer, I think, works better as a debuffer. So while I'm leaning in towards like support with the option, I really want to push it towards debuffer. Especially because that would give it an interesting contrast to Bard and Monk. Monk is meant to be, I am the harasser. I go into the front line, pop in, I hit you. If Stunning Strike doesn't go off, I'm going to use Step of the Wind to get out of there. If Stunning Strike does go off, I'm going to use Flurry of Blows to punch you more. You know, like, that is what Monk is all about. They're supposed to get in, try and do some control, and get out. Rogue, I get in. If I don't kill it on my turn, I'm going to use Cunning Action to disengage and get out. That's what I mean by the harasser playstyle here. Dancer is going to be more of a support in the way of, not quite Bard, because Bard can also be a harasser in a way. More like if you went straight up like Artificer or like Mastermind Rogue, right? Mastermind Rogue is such a great... I love that subclass so much. I absolutely love that subclass for narrative. It has some problems, but like, man, that first lineup of features you get out of it is just so cool, so cool. Oh man. So, would performance skill be important somehow? I don't want to tie performance so intrinsically into the class, because as soon as you do something like, you can base it off of performance, and I learned this with the first time I ever rode a satyr race. So, you can get expertise and skills, and if you base something off of a skill modifier, then it's very, very easy for players to figure out that, like, oh, I can just dip in to go, like, multi-class with this and get expertise, and then one of my core class features is going to be infinitely better because I dipped into another class. One of the ways to set up for that might be to make it to where, like, you know, you get expertise in this skill, like, you give it to them, and then you base the feature off of that number. So, expertise in a skill is also a little hard to design around, because, like, if you give expertise in a skill, number one, you can count on if that is going to be used as a modifier. The highest that modifier could be off of the raw number is going to be 17. So, highest your proficiency gets is +6. plus 6 from doubling the proficiency bonus, plus 5 from your modifier, means that it'll wind up being 17. Now, if I use that for a save DC, that feels really weak. If I use that for armor class, that feels very meh. Especially at lower levels. Like if I was to say, like, yeah, your armor class can be equal to your proficiency bonus times 2 plus your performance skill. Right there at first level or whatever, we're looking at most of like what on average is going to be 7. Your armor class is going to be lower than if you just didn't have that feature. So it's a little hard to play with, but it is a mechanic that I would like to ride around someday. Maybe if you gave it a flat, like you have a plus 3, but it breaks 5e design convention. It's a little hard to design with, but I do like the idea. I really like the idea. You can put charisma and dexterity as the pool, making it... Ooh! Well, okay, so one of the things I want to avoid, and this is the thing I was talking about with Heavy, I want to avoid just straight up giving them an unarmed defense feature. That feels like I've already given them an unarmored movement feature, and if I gave them unarmored defense, I think it would just feel like... I don't think that that's completely right. A dancer, to me, doesn't feel like it should be prepped for battle like that, quite like a monk does, or a barbarian. But what I really liked was Second Wind on Dancer. And I know that a lot of the RPGs that I played really liked it, because every dancer I ever saw as a class includes a Second Wind feature, or a Second Wind ability as a part of that dancer. So, Fierce Tenacity is a way for me to get that across without it being Step of the Wind 100%. And this is still a really good feature. You can tap into a rush of adrenaline that helps you slip away and shake off recent harm. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to take the dodge action and regain hit points equal to 1d8 plus your dancer level. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. So you get the benefits of the dodge action, and the reason why I did 1d8 is because their hit die is only a d8, and the reason why it's a d10 over in Fighter is because their hit die is a d10. But because I lowered that and offered it at the same level, I think that it's fine to give them the dodge action as well as 1d8 plus your dancer level. They are not meant to be in the front line. They're just not meant to be there. So giving them the dodge action is really helpful. And then 1d8 plus your dancer level, we're talking about an average of like 5.5 right here at first level. Scales up to, 24.5, but I think that's actually a really good feature. I really like Fierce Tenacity. Yeah. So let's see. Maybe make a dancer be able to use Dex for charisma checks, like how a Fey Wanderer can use Wisdom, as dancing is his primary dexterous skill. So I like that idea, and I really like that on the Fey Wanderer, and I like it on the Samurai, right? I think using Dex for charisma, unless it's just like performance, is kind of... It kind of puts it in a weird narrative, right? Because if you're like, okay, I'm going to use my dexterity for my persuasion checks, and like, you're just going like, okay, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go up to the guy and just kind of like, like dance for him or something. Like, that, funny, don't get me wrong. That's really funny. But like, I don't think that ultimately it's the kind of narrative that like, I want to get across with it. I do like it for performance, I really like that for performance. Maybe if performance was... what's kind of cool there, actually? Hang on. That... Freezy, you may have just given me the reason for... you may have just given me the reason to scale armor class off of their performance skill. If you can add your dexterity modifier to your performance skill, and then your armor class is equal to your performance skill modifier, that would mean that, okay, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus, we say max of 12. would mean that at 20th level, or I guess that would be as early as 17th level, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Yeah. As early as 17th level, your armor class would be 22, which, I mean, sure, Barb gets up there. Um, is there any way that Monk can get that? I mean, that's a big number. If Monk can't do it, I'd be a little hesitant to let Dancer do it. Well, no, because Monk is meant to be the harasser, so that's kind of the payoff. Is that, okay. Like, what is the absolute highest AC you can get on a Monk? Right? If you're just going unarmed defense. 10 plus Dex plus Wiz. So it's 20. Um, I like the idea. I like the idea a lot. Add. Oh, with that magic item, sure. Yeah, and that's another weird thing with Monk, is like, if you put on that magic item, well, I guess a Ring of Protection lets you get up to 21, and that's not technically armor? Okay. I guess there's ways. Yeah, but this would just be giving it to you as a part of the base class. And I'm very, very hesitant to play with bounded accuracy that hard. Is it really? Braces of defense. Okay. So there is a way to do it, but the thing that I also have to consider is that this Dancer could do that. So I don't know that I could write a feature that says, basically, your AC is always 2 higher than the Monk's. You know what I mean? $10 plus half your bonus to performance rounded up? Your AC equals 10 plus half of your bonus to performance rounded up. That would be... So maximum we're talking about with that, if we go with the Dex mod thing, like I said, what is that, 17? No, 22. Plus 11. So 10 plus 11 would get you up to 21. I guess that's not bad. It is extra math. But, like, I guess every time you get the proficiency boost, it is going to feel like you are actually, like, powering up a little bit. That's not bad. Like, maybe tie it to flare. Yeah. That's been a thought. It was initially. It was, like, after you use flare, you get a bonus to your armor class equal to your charisma modifier until the start of your next turn. Or what was it? While you had points of flare, you have a bonus to your armor class equal to your charisma modifier. So, like, you were meant to keep using this feature, but it was also, like, be careful when you use it, but ultimately it didn't really feel super dancery. That's... Yeah. Yeah. That's... Huh. So Psychotech asked this question, and I really like this because this was a thing I was thinking about. Would there be some sort of passive buff or ability when fighting alongside a bard, like extra movement speed or something? So I had talked about this with Heavy, actually on a call, I don't know, a little while ago. And I was like, God, this feels like that would be so fun to do, like you get a little bonus to something while there's music playing. I thought that was kind of cute, but, like, we don't have a mechanic for it other than your players just saying, I'm going to, like, play music right now in the middle of battle. Like, I don't know how we could really, like, negotiate all that. Oh, man, it has to... that's the kind of thing that just has to be, like, all for funsies, you know? It has to feel like a ribbon feature. And, like, that might be kind of cool to give them at 3rd level. Like, yeah. Ooh, wait. Hang on. So you know what's cool about that? Is the idea of you can give your if you are dancing alongside music, or you're dancing to music through played by any means, you can use your flair on any creature that can hear you or see you. That is actually a very nice buff for something that feels so situational, right? That is actually a remarkable feature for something that feels like you're going to have to set up, like to do some that. So like we have an accompaniment, kind of an idea for that. Oh, downbeat is really cool. Uh, when you use flair when accompanied by music, you can use any creature that can see or hear you. Because originally it had to be any creature that can see you. And like, if you're going around playing music while you're using your speed, it is allowing you to like use your, like, you can provide your own accompaniment, I think. That's very cute. That is very cute. I don't know what level we would give that to them at, but like, that's a very funny little bump right there. And it's kind of a synergy with Bard. I like that. I like that. That's cute. Sorry, I keep punching my mic. Maybe have an ability that adds your flair count to armor. That is not a bad idea. And actually what that does, you get light armor proficiency. Monk doesn't. Like, that was a big reason why I gave them light armor proficiency, was because I didn't want to write an unarmored defense feature. But I do like the idea that, like, you just have a boost to your armor class equal to the number of flair that you have. I've been talking about flair a lot, but I haven't really gone into it. I need to talk about that one. Okay. Okay. You get 14 if it's half rounded up at max. Oh, you're talking about that performance. Yeah. We were talking about if you possibly added your dex mod and expertise to it and everything. This is the high AC. Burst AC. That's another thing I really like, is the idea of it being burst AC. That's a very good way to put that. I really like that terminology for that. Thank you, Zandy. I'm just going to adopt that from here on out. Yeah, instead of a flat high AC, I like the idea of burst higher AC, where you have to use a resource, but then once you do, bam, it's like you get a bonus equal to your charisma modifier to your armor class until XYZ thing. That feels almost like you've got shield, which is really cool. That feels real cool. Okay, I'm going to think about that. Yeah. Alright. Wouldn't people just say that they're singing in combat and dance to that? Probably. Because min-maxers are no fun. No, I'm kidding. Probably because, they're going to try to get the most out of that. And, like, man, Bard is already getting something that's on that power. And it is such a minor thing that, like, I wouldn't even mind if someone was just like, I'm going to be singing while I dance. Like, I think that that's a pretty nice, pretty graceful, like, boost in power right there. I don't know. I'll sleep on that, and I'll think about that a little bit more. But I do like the idea. Needs an action to sing. Yeah, usually I would say that is a, like, would you say it's an interaction? It's something that you are trying to do that will cause, like, the way that I look at it, at least whenever I'm DMing, is like, I think about whenever my players are asking me what part of the action economy is something that they want to do is going to take up, I usually think about it in terms of like, number one, what kind of impact are you wanting it to have on the battle? You know, like, if it's probably nothing, like, I'm going to open up this window, or like it's a very minor thing like that, I usually just give it to them as like a free, object interaction. But if it's something like, I'm going to yell at one of my buddies, just say, hey, I don't know, it doesn't like fire, it's weak to fire, then like, I'm just going to give them that, whatever, that's fine. But if it's something that I know that they're doing to like set up one of their other features, then that's whenever I'm usually like, okay, we need to have something in here that like covers that part of the action economy. If you were just using speech or like singing in order to provide something that provides a mechanical benefit, yes, that would be an action. That would definitely be an action. Flair. Okay, yes, I need to talk about this. I keep talking like I'm going to talk about it, and I just assume that you guys know what I'm talking about here. Flair is going to be the core feature for the Dancer. This is just like key is to Monk. So at Flair, at second level, you can motivate or bewilder others with your captivating movement. You can use your speed by either moving or dancing in place. You gain a point of Flair for every 10 feet you move, or 5 feet of speed you use to dance in place. You can gain a number of Flair points equal to your Charisma modifier during your turn. You lose any Flair points at the start of your next turn. You can spend these points to fuel various Flair features. You start knowing 4 such features: Follow My Lead, Step Up, Stillness and Turn, and Twist. You learn more features as you gain levels in this class. Actually, yeah, this needs to be Follow My Lead. Immediately after you move 5 feet or more during your turn, you can spin Flare and choose one creature within 60 feet of you that can see you. The creature can use a reaction to move up to half its movement speed in the same direction you moved. Doing so does not provoke opportunity attacks. You can use one Flare. There we go. Move up to half its movement speed in the same direction you moved. So, another way to think about the Dancer is that this is kind of, if you've got a really good mind for chess, I'm hoping that this is going to really make you think of like, okay, I want to think about positioning more on the battlefield, right? So Follow My Lead is the kind of thing where you think, okay, that this is basically for one Flare, you are giving a creature a free disengage. Okay, that is super, super good. It may be so good that I actually up the amount of Flare to like 2. Or maybe 2, maybe 3. Because you're giving it to somebody else, which is better, I think, than you being able to spend 1 key point to do disengage. Like, you're doing this to somebody that you know is going to need it, right? Something gets up in your wizard's face, this is super easy. Yeah, get your wizard out of trouble. Like, I really love Follow My Lead. I would be super hesitant to boost that up to 2 Flare, but I think that this is possibly the strongest feature on this whole thing. And yeah, to AC, it won't add more than 5. Yeah. Yeah, it's a solid idea. Oh man, I just don't want the feature to get too clunky. But no, I do like the idea. Step Up. As an action, you can spend 1 Flare point and choose 1 creature within 60 feet of you that can see you. The creature's initiative count becomes 1 higher or 1 lower, your choice, than the creature closest to it in initiative. So now you're able to reorganize the action economy a little bit. I really like this idea, but like, oh man, I kind of wonder what it could do for, like, I wonder how I could narratively get that across a little bit more effectively. And I think if it's going to do a detriment like 1 lower, then it needs to be tied into a saving throw. Like, that's pretty big. Step Up is pretty big. You can really, there are certain situations in where that is super impactful, okay? But what's the benefit of it right now? I do wonder if that one lower, or if it should need to, like, have to make a save against it, and then a creature can willingly fail to save. I think that might keep it in check a little bit more. Stillness in turn. Whenever you take the disengage or dodge actions, you can spend flare points to gain temporary hit points equal to 1d4 per point of flare you spend. So, Stillness in turn was initially just the same thing as Step of the Wind, where you could take the disengage or dodge actions as a bonus action for a key point, or as a flare point here. But, like, for the Dancer, what I thought would be fun is that the Dancer should be sort of disincentivized to use their action to attack. So it should reward you for taking disengage or dodge actions, like using those actions right there. Dodge is going to increase your armor class, or no, dodge causes disadvantage. Oh my god, there are so many freaking mechanics to remember. Oh, that's disengage or dash. Monk has to spend... Okay, dodging is a separate thing. Okay. So, dodging is when you take the dodge action, you focus entirely on avoiding attacks. Until the start of your next turn, any attack roll made against you has disadvantage if you can see the attacker, and you can make dexterity saving throws with advantage. You lose this benefit if you're incapacitated or if your speed drops to 0. So, with dodge... let me check Discord real quick. Someone ping me up. Oh, thank you, Les. Okay. Cool. Alright, I will look at that here in just a second. So, like, the way that I think about that is I'm thinking about disengage I'm thinking about dodge as if that is effectively as if you get a 4.5 tier armor class. Because if something has disadvantage on attack rolls against you, we can think of that as you are subtracting about 4.5 to the attack roll. So, I really like what dodge already kind of does for upping its armor class, you know? It could possibly be, whenever you take the dodge action, you can subtract... whenever you take the dodge action, if you're targeted with an attack, or are forced to make a saving throw, you gain a bonus to your armor class against the attack, or on the saving throw, equal to the amount of flare points you have, or equal to your charisma modifier. That would make you the best dodger in the game. That would be so freaking strong. I would simply add charisma modifier to AC when you use certain flares. It's been a thought. But a way to think about that is also free shield. Maybe a feature that lets you dodge as a reaction. So, the way that dodge works is a little odd as a reaction. Because I don't think any other class has the ability to do that as a reaction, right? Yeah, until the start of your next turn, any attack roll made against you has advantage. So, if we're talking about negotiating that in the action economy, dodge action. Wait, let me get this back up. There we go. Dodge action. When you take the dodge action, can I just get this? There we go. I'm trying to get that zoomed up for you guys. Man, I need to just recenter my display capture. Get you over here. Okay. When you take the dodge action, you focus entirely on avoiding attacks. Until the start of your next turn, any attack roll made against you has a disadvantage if you can see the attacker. And you make dexterity saving throws with advantage. You lose this benefit if you're incapacitated or if your speed drops to 0. What's good about that? Hang on. What's really good about that is... Wait, Rogue can do it as a reaction? Is that a thing? Hang on, what? Can Rogue do that? Because if that's the case, 10 plus half performance bonus. The math is okay, but like, I think that there's a good way to do it. I think that there's a stronger math to do it. That proficiency bonus scaling is just something that kind of irks me in a base class. Yeah, no, you guys, dodge is such a strong thing you can do with your action. Dodge is so good. Whenever people are like looking at Beastmaster and like thinking, wait, what? It takes a dodge action by default? Yeah, because it's so good. It wants to avoid damage. Like, that is such a strong ability. Does anybody know? Is there a way that you can do dodge as a reaction in a base class in the game? I don't think that that's a thing. Unless I am... Yeah, so Rogue doesn't even get dodge as a bonus action. Because, like, if you look at dash, like, everyone thinks about dash as, like, the, non-attack action that I can do during my turn that's usually really, really strong. Disengage is also really, really good. Hide is also pretty good. But dodge, I think part of the reason why they didn't put dodge in cunning action is because it's so good. Like, Rogue's uncanny dodge. Have the attacks. Okay, that makes sense. Huh. We could just make it super great at using dodge. And like the idea I had for this, right, was like for dodge, any attack roll made against you has advantage if you can see the attacker. If we just do any attack roll made against you has disadvantage, like, can you make an attack roll if you can't see the target? Is that a thing? Like, because what I'm thinking of is like, until the start of your next, like whenever you use the dodge action, any attack roll made against you has disadvantage if the attacker can see you. Which I think the attacker already has to be able to see you. Is that a thing? Like, I guess blind sight is... Yeah, I guess it would have to be if the target can see you. And isn't blinded? I don't know. What's the word for that? Because, like, the counter to that is, you look at, like, the hook horror, right? Where, like, the hook horror relies on echolocation. So, like, the last thing, like, the dancer's worst enemy is going to be a hook horror. If the attacker can't see you, it already has this advantage, unless it has blind sight. Well, wait. No, I'm a dumb. Yeah, that's already right. If the attacker can't see you, it already has this advantage. So this is just, yeah. Huh. What was a car alarm going off? Yeah. I'm thinking. So for dodge, because what I'm thinking is the cool thing to do here isn't necessarily just going to be to let you do the dodge action as a bonus action. It's going to be to, like, whenever you use the dodge action, to give you something a little cooler out of it. And what would it be? You make dexterity saving throws with advantage. You lose this benefit if you're incapacitated or if your speed drops to 0. Because, like, that's already saying a lot for what this dancer can do. Maybe something that allows other people to take the dodge action with you, almost like a synchronized dance. Oh, oh wait, synchronized dance. That's actually a really cool idea for a feature. Like, you take an action, you can blow flare. Hang on a second. There's a. Let me go make sure that's not my car going off. Hang on one sec. Yep, no idea. Must have been the neighbors. Um, well, if you do it once as an action, like whenever you take your action, you can expend flare, and then everybody else that you're in your party with can use their reaction to take the same action you just did, which can be to disengage, dodge. I mean, if you number one, okay, let me just say this right now. If there was a feature that just straight up said you can use your action to allow everyone that can see you to take the dodge action, I would think that was super stupid busted. I don't mind it here, and I'm trying to think of why. Wait, is that coming from my computer? I don't know if you guys can hear that. It sounds like there's a car alarm going off. Um, since you want dancers to use their action on dodge and not attacking, perhaps a feature that gives offensive bonuses to party members when you dodge. Hmm. When you dodge. Ooh. Any creature that targets you with an attack. Nah, wait, that would be way too good. Oh, that would be way too strong. No, I was basically going to give them like the Crusher feat as a part of the dodge action. That would be insane. Um, any attack roll made against you has disadvantage if you can see the attacker. Do you think this class is underpowered at this point? That must be why. Um, well, the fact that the class isn't done means that it's underpowered. um, I don't have a core foundational feature right now. Um, the the power budget of it is in a really interesting spot because this class literally gets no bonuses to attacking at all, at all. Um, and I guess you could say that like Bard is kind of in a similar situation, but at least Bard gets stronger weapons than the ones that you get out of here. Oh, and I really love the. I just had a really fun time writing out the proficiencies that they get. So like improvised weapons. I feel like that's like one of my signatures now. I just love throwing improvised weapons as a narrative thing on classes. Daggers, darts, rapiers, scimitars, short swords, and whips. So, I don't know. First person to type in the through line with all these gets a baseball. I don't know what. If you can tell me, first person to list what all these things right here have in common, you are the D&D pog champ. I don't know. You are the real gamer. Because I thought it also said a lot about the narrative of this class. I thought that was a really fun thing. Yeah, hey, CBEV. It's all good. This one was super, super impromptu. I was just... Amanda's out at work right now, and I was trying to field some ideas for the dancer, because I'm going to work on it a little bit tonight. Also, I was going to play D&D with AJ tonight, but we've had so many scheduling conflicts come up. I was not feeling great yesterday, and we had an issue where, oh man, we just... Ooh, ooh. Freezy's getting close. Freezy's getting very close. They're all unusual. I mean, somewhat. I love that Whips qualified for this. That made it so. Yeah, that was the thing for me that made me think like, all right, this is right on. To dance with these items, including fans and weapons, they have, but that isn't the well. Let's say this. What's the interesting mechanic? Oh, there we go. Zandy got it. These are all finesse weapons, and they all happen to be weapons that dancers I have seen videos of have danced with. Yep, they're all finesse weapons, and it fit in so well with the narrative of this class. And like these all like I can pull up daggers, darts, rapiers. All these have like implications for like your dancer's style. Really love that. Whip dance, like wow, yeah. So tools, disguise kit, and one musical instrument. I just give you the one. You don't. I guess you could just call it singing. Sure. A gripe for me with Vard getting a dance subclass is that they get the proficiency with like all these like musical instruments, and I don't know. Not all dancers are necessarily great at performing music. Yeah, I don't know. That just always kind of like irked me. But I do like the idea of the disguise kit. Because that feels, you're getting in stage makeup and whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I've played like 50 theater shows, so I've actually got a few buddies that I want to hit up to do some consulting on it that are just choreographers. One of my buddies, Pete, is actually he's a lawyer and a choreographer out in Washington D.C. I need to give him a call. I just need to talk with him. I haven't seen him in forever. Yep. No, I knew you were like so close. That was so funny. So a blade singer and a dancer walk into a bar. So the cool thing, my favorite, this may be my favorite feature I've written for a subclass or for a class. Period. I absolutely love this feature. I've named two of them Trip to Light Fantastic because it sounds so like cinematic and whatnot. I'm having like zero problems writing the Spellcaster subclass because it already feels like it ranks itself. And part of what's super cool, I love this, Soma Fonta Arcana. While you're dancing, I just need to put, how about this? Is higher. While your movement speed is higher than 0, your allies can cast spells as if they had cast them from your position, if they can see you. Whoa, that is so good. And it makes you think even more about positioning, right? I absolutely love... whenever I came up with this, I was immediately like, open the InDesign document. Like, I rushed in here to get this down because I was like, what this does is you're looking at this as this is a 0 power for you kind of a mechanic right here. This is so freaking strong, though. If you're able to just act as a font for all of your teammates to cast spells through, you know how insane that is? That, like, hey, like, oh my god. Oh, I just absolutely love this ability. And what this also means, technically, this would work with Cure Wounds. Your cleric would not have to run up to get to you to cast Cure Wounds on you. Or, well, your movement speed would have to be higher than 0, so it wouldn't work for Revivify. But, like, you could act as the channeler for your cleric's Revivify if you can get to a buddy but they can't. Like, Soma Fonta Arcana is like, oh my god, I love that feature so much. And I think people are going to look at it and be like, I don't really get what that's doing for you. I I think that's probably the strongest narrative feature I may have ever written, and it says so little. I love that feature. Um, Font Mystique. Oh, that was based off of an old version of it. I kind of debated with giving them magical secrets in the same way that, yeah, exactly, like a relay. In the same way that Bard does. But then again, I think that is also pressing this idea of like, why not just make this a Bard subclass? So I'm probably gonna get rid of that or give them some kind of a thing. I don't know. Um, Ask any person in real life that practices archery, and they'll tell you need great strength to pull back an arrow. What was that? Oh, bows and short bows should have finesse. I've heard, I've actually seen some arguments in some versions of short bows and long bows that actually required like strength, but in a pretty interesting way. Um, I've tried to pull back a compound bow and thrown my shoulder out of place. So like, yeah, um, maybe have that ability have a certain range, not infinite. Ah, no, you're right. That would need a point. That would need uh, hack cast them from your position. Uh, if they can see you, it's not exactly infinite. Um, the the expected, I guess the anticipated range for like what if they can see you means, like visual range, is gonna likely be about 300 feet. Um, like, and I don't think we have any effect that can target something beyond 300 feet without like, I don't know, binoculars. I guess this would work with binoculars or like scrying spells or something. Okay. Cast them from your position. If you are allies, 60 feet of you can cast spells as if they had cast them from your position. Allies within 60 feet of you that can see you can cast spells as if they had cast them from your position. Okay, there we go. Um, yeah, 60 foot makes sense. 60 foot does make sense. It makes sense what everybody else is getting. Um, and like honestly, the scale of power that we're talking about there, um, can cast spells as if they had cast them from your position. Uh, like, okay, if you can see a target, I like this idea. There's a really fun idea I've got with this, where like the wizard knows that there's an enemy behind a thing, but they can't see him, but you can. Can they pass the spell off to you, and then you like channel it and then sling it in their direction? That's the kind of thing I want so bad. I think that that's so cool, and it's part of the reason why I wrote this feature, Trip to Light Fantastic. Um, the narrative of this feature is so cool. When a creature targets you with a spell attack while you're dancing, you can use your reaction to tease the weave and deflect it. When you do, you can test the spell's attack roll with a charisma performance check. If you win the contest, you gain control of the spell, and you can make a ranged spell attack with the spell as a part of the same reaction, using charisma for the attack roll. If you do not know the spell, you do not make this attack with proficiency. So, like, this is gonna feel like I think many people kind of wanted, like, Counterspell to sort of feel, where, like, well, Counterspell can counter spells that require a save DC or an attack roll. This doesn't counter those that require a save DC. This is straight up like something slings a cantrip at you, like Firebolt. You can like twist it around and then like fling it back at them. Now, the hard thing with this is going to be you gain control of the spell, but like, what do you? Well, let me take a look. We need more creatures in game that encourage the team synergy. That is everything I'm going for with this. That's part of the reason why I love making support classes. You know, the merchant was all about like are you going to be super super fantastic as a like frontliner, as the merchant, or are you going to be pumping out a lot of insane damage with that thing? Not necessarily. But like your party is going to love the fact that you're there because you've got that little Mary Poppins bag of everything with you. Do they need potions of healing because the cleric's out of spell slots? Bam, you got it. You can potentially get, what is it, Pearls of Power to refresh their spell slots. You can be the one giving them a source of fly speed really easy. You are the guy making sure that they are completely in stock and ready to go as adventurers. And I love that idea. That's why that's what I think was like the big success with the merchant, was that everyone I've talked to about it that has played it afterwards has been like, I think I finally understand what you mean by like, this is a supplier. Because, like, the team is we've always got something to kind of handle, or, like, I can think of an item that would help out in most situations, and this is the class that's kind of allowing me to do that. I absolutely love how the merchant turned out. Let me see here. Performance check. Have you thought about just making it that a proficiency dancers get at level 1? Yes, I did. Now, it makes sense, but like, wouldn't it also make sense for Bard to get that at level 1, and they don't? Like, I thought that was kind of an odd thing. I guess with bards, like bards can be more about like oration, where they're more about talking rather than like necessarily like playing music or something. So maybe performance doesn't innately make a whole lot of sense. But like if you look at what's another one? Shouldn't rogue just get sleight of hand or stealth like proficiency? We just don't have a precedent for a class getting a proficiency in a skill right off the bat. Like, in a given skill, if that makes sense. Maybe in a tools set, or... No, because that would just be given to you in your class features. Hopefully that answers that question, but I did think about that a lot. I even thought about doing, so much so as to go... Let me get up here. Okay, so right here where it says like choose 3 from either acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. I even thought about just typing in right here and 2 from either acrobatics, athletics, whatever. Ultimately, I'm pushing against that because I haven't seen anybody else's homebrew that does that. I haven't seen anybody else's homebrew that does that, and I haven't seen anything official that does that, and I would rather just give you more options to pick from, and then that's going to push you, I get to choose 3. Alright, well, I'm going to take performance, or I'm going to take the entertainer background and get that performance and acrobatics already, and then my class is going to give me 3 pretty flexible ones. That's pretty cool. Cool. I'll take sleight of hand, persuasion, and insight, whatever. Stealth, So, yeah, it does already give you the 2 that you get out of the entertainer background. So, it does allow you to pick up something else, like the soldier background, and then still snag the proficiencies you get off of the entertainer background. But I am always going to recommend that you take the entertainer background because that just makes so much sense there. Let me take a look. Clarify that it can only work against spell attacks. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I thought that felt very wizard duel-y. But this isn't a wizard, and I just thought that it made a lot more sense if you can see the spell coming, then it makes sense for it, to be tied into a spell attack. Then it's like, okay, now I can twist it and I can possibly counter it, rather than something twisting the very synapses of your psyche. This made a lot more sense to me than, like, yeah, against the spell save DC, it must be made against your performance ability. Nah, I didn't like that. But at least with this, it feels like you can kind of dance around and, like, fling the spells back or something. Plus, I just heard this name, Triple Light Fantastic. It's just an idiom for dancing. And I was like, okay, that has to be a feature. That is such a narratively, like, compelling statement right there. Ah, oh, so cool. Let's see here. Maybe limit to 120 foot like an Artificer's Homunculus. Artificer already gets that? Now, the thing with Artificer, okay. My only thought against that is that it's only the Artificer's spells. But I guess that's a very one-sided thing. Right? Is it Alchemical Homunculi as... God, and I was going to make my Artificer guide, like how to play Artificer, and it is... Every time I've gotten started on that, it feels like it's going to take up 3 hours. But it is something I do want to get to. Especially as I'm covering more stuff from Tasha's. So, where does it say... Channel Magic, okay. So, it is only a range of touch, and the homunculus must be within 120 feet of you. I think it would only make sense for it to be able to... use it as a reaction. Like, yeah, it does need its action economy put through there. Okay. Your allies within 60 feet of you that use your reaction to wait. Hang on. While your movement speed is higher than 0, you can use your reaction to allow... Now, hang on. That's not right. This needs to require your reaction somehow. Your allies within 60 feet of you that can see you can cast spells as if they had cast them from your position. Okay. So this needs to be written in a certain way. When an ally that can within 60 feet of you that can see you cast a spell, you can use your reaction to allow to as if it's from your position. It needs that. This would be crazy to combo with scribes. How so? Is there some kind of a thing with scribes I'm not thinking of? While your movement speed is higher than 0, your allies... Okay, this needs to go. While your movement speed is higher than 0, act as a font. Mint can channel your movement can beguile the weave around. No. Your dancing can channel the magic around you. I don't know. You need to just be a font, right? Act as a font. What do we put it? A relay. Relay sounds so mechanical, right? Where you say font and it sounds very like, ooh, how magic and how fantasy. You say relay and then it sounds like I'm a server and I'm just gonna yeah. To twist the weave around you is pretty cool. You can use your reaction to twist the weave around you. To act as a font for okay. Paragraph styles, body text, indent. When an ally within 60 feet. Alright, let's see this whole feature. Are we happy with that? While your movement speed is higher than 0, you can use your reaction to twist the weave around you, allowing you to act as a font for your ally's spellcasting. When an ally within 60 feet of you that can see you cast a spell, you can use your reaction to allow them to cast it as if it had been cast from your position. That is super easy. That is super simple. Whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it as if you were in the spectral mind space instead of your own, using its senses. Does that cause a problem? Ah, yes, thank you. Only use this reaction. Yes, thank you, Spencer. That helps out so much more. Yes, we're going to fix that right now. Second part is kind of redundant. You can twist the weave around you, allowing your you can twist the weave around you, allowing you to act as a font for your ally's spellcasting. When an ally within 60 feet of you that can see you casts a spell, you can use your reaction to allow them to cast it as if it had been cast from your position. You can only use this reaction if your movement speed is higher than 0. I think the chat's a little bit slower. Probably about... God, it almost looks like you guys are like almost a minute behind me. It's a little bit slower, so I'm just trying to make sure. I don't think this is redundant anymore. You can use your... Wait. You can see cast a spell. You can use your reaction to allow them to cast it as if it's been cast from your position. You can only use this reaction if your movement speed is higher than 0. I think that's solid. That looks real good. And I think very much fits the theme of like what this like magical dancer is supposed to be about. Thank you, Ember Shade. Okay, yeah, I think Soma Fonsa is like perfect. I love that feature. No, it's not your fault. It's just the realities of live streaming. Speaking of, how long have I been on now? 2 hours? Wow. Man, that flew by. What time are we looking at? Because yeah, there we go. Yeah, let me send a text message real quick, and then we'll get moving on to the next part. Okay. So, well, yeah, it's always fun designing with other people around you because, like, you get these ideas and whatnot, and you feel sometimes what I really like doing is I'll be in the middle of a live stream, and I'll be designing some piece of homebrew or whatever, and someone just says something, and I'm just like, oh my god, I've been stuck on this forever, and for whatever reason, that just totally makes sense for this. So, I don't know. I haven't necessarily felt stuck on the dancer. The dancer is like actually this has been a flow of constant inspiration. The only problem I've been running into here lately is just that I completely revamped the way that their core like resource generation engine worked, and that caused some problems. So like, yeah. But it's getting better. It really is. I did I go through all of Flare? Okay, because we talked about dodge action. Woo! All right, we've been talking a lot. Um, Twist was an interesting one. So twist, using a reaction that you make whenever a creature within 60 feet of you that you can see and that can see you moves directly towards you. You can wait. You can spend one flare to point. God, woo! You can spend one flare point to force the creature to make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the creature takes 1d4 plus your Charisma modifier psychic damage, and every foot of movement the creature uses to move directly towards you costs one extra foot until the start of its next turn. So this is basically you are causing all of that creature's movement, if it moves towards you, to be difficult terrain. I need to clip out the wordage on that real hard. And this is, I like to use this as an example right here of like something that I think has merit as a really cool idea, but this is too clunky. This is way too clunky. I think I wrote this just trying to get some ideas out there, but so one of my big rules that I do whenever I'm that I do whenever I'm writing a piece of content is that I don't think any action or any part of a player's action economy should require more than two rolls at most. So if and I mean that like, if I take my action, it's different if you're doing like extra attack, right? We know that with fighter taking extra attack, that's a very easy negotiation. You're just doing extra attack to do those attack rolls 4 times or whatever. Yes, I will talk about that here in a second, Spencer. Now, with Twist, we're looking at a reaction that you make whenever a creature within 60 feet of you that can see you and that you can see moves directly towards you. You can spend one flare point to force the creature to make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the creature takes 1d4 plus your Charisma modifier psychic damage. And every foot of movement it uses. So, man, it just feels so clunky. And I don't like that. But yeah, so if we're looking at like, okay, I'm just going to call it the 2-roll rule. And this isn't anything official, it's just one thing I do that I've started to notice I like this a lot more. This is to help reduce clunkiness or feature bloat in a way. I don't think any part of a player's action economy should ever require more than 2 rolls. Should ever and what I mean by that is like usually a d20 roll is tied into an action, right? There are certain exceptions for this in the case of extra attack, right? like extra attack, but that's pretty simple. Where extra attack is, these are just attack rolls, right? It's not an attack roll, a saving throw, an ability check, and then I'm gonna roll a d20 because I get to do that as a part of my halfling luck. I don't, whatever. No, this is just, let's just keep it down to like, we need to make a negotiation of like, yes, I just want this to be an attack roll. Boom. Part of the reason why people don't like Stunning Strike, and I think part of the reason why people feel that it's super, super clunky, is because it requires an attack roll. You can expend a key and then force it to make a saving throw, right? But it has to be tied to that because Stunning Strike is such an incredible feature. But Stunning Strike is clunky because you're requiring more rolls there. A roll, a resource, and then a saving throw. So, like, yes, there are only 2 rolls there. But it feels like there's too much happening in that feature, and it feels clunky. Despite really only being a conditional stun. So, like, there might be a way to make this better. Let me see here. Twist can be kind of messed up in tables. Other countries that use meters instead of feet. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, but this is the way that we write difficult terrain wordage for D&D. I think I lifted this straight up from the from the difficult terrain wordage. Whenever a creature moves towards you, you can see each other, and I need to be using that more often, right? Huh. When a creature moves towards you, if you can see each other, and it's within 60 feet of you, a reaction. That actually gives it a good sense of scaling right there and punches it from... Okay, I really like that change, actually. Just make it a damage roll for the cost of your reaction. So that's the interesting thing, is I think that we're adjusting a lot of the action economy for the dancer over into their reaction, which is kind of cool. Making it to where, like, yeah, a lot of their real high damage can come out of them using their reaction. So they're going to have to choose what they use their reaction for, which, like, you know, most classes are going to really, really want to keep using their... they're going to really want to keep using their action to do a lot of stuff. That's your core source of, like, damage output. So what if we shift that for the dancer? 1d4 plus 5 damage for your reaction isn't amazing. It's strong enough, honestly, that if you look at, like, Berserker Barbarian... Now, I know, I think that that's a super weak subclass, but Wizards of the Coast felt that doing flat damage as a part of your reaction is good enough that if there's not another condition that provokes it, such as an attack of opportunity, it deserves to be tied behind 14th level. That's a very small part of your action economy that, like, being able to do that is very remarkably strong. Basically what Wizards of the Coast thought is that taking damage and being able to do the same thing as an opportunity attack, that is a very remarkably strong feature. I don't necessarily agree with that design philosophy, but I do keep it in mind whenever I start playing around with reactions and damage that occurs during the reaction. But if this is going to be their core source of damage output, maybe it should scale. But 1d5 per 5 feet that it moves. Man, that is... Or 1d4 for 5 feet of damage. I guess it's not a whole lot, but it definitely can't add your charisma modifier every single instance of that. It would be like, I mean, whew, that much flat damage. That is insane. Especially not for one flare point. Um, you use your reaction to cause this. I would say that that's so good that it's probably like, I don't know about cantrip level power. That's what I should be thinking of for all these flare. Oh wait, Spencer asked a question earlier that's very, very important, and I totally spaced out on talking about it. Maybe I read it wrong earlier, but how do you get flare points back? Like every turn you get back flare points. So, I think I read this earlier, but it's worth talking about again. So, once you lose your flare, you lose any flare at the start of your next turn. The way that you keep regenerating flare is for every 10 feet you move or for every 5 feet of speed you use to dance in place, you get a flare point. So, flare is a thing that doesn't regenerate on a short or long rest. This is literally a resource that you keep building up every time you move during your turn. So that's why I said that I couldn't make this the exact same thing as ki. If we're trying to make movement into a resource, like that was the big design challenge with the dancer, is I wanted to make movement a resource. And like there's a few options I have to think about with that, right? Like usually we know for races, the average speed that you're going to get for a race is going to be about 30 feet. Now, this is another reason why I hate Arakakra, in that Arakakra is just objectively better at being a dancer than any other race because it has 50 feet of movement it can mess with. Tabaxi is another one that can do this just insanely well. So I needed to tie it into some kind of a limiter there. Like, you gain a number of flare points equal to your charisma modifier during your turn is kind of the way to try and keep that in line, and that you can only gain so many. But I think that this needs to be a pool instead, like similar to how Lay on Hands works, where like you can fill this pool back up by like using your flare and whatnot. But like it's a resource that's only going to last until the start of your next turn. So it's encouraging you to keep continuously using this. And what I think is fun about that is that people might be like, oh, well, yeah, if I multi-class this and do whatever. Yeah, but literally none of your multi-class stuff is going to pay off if all you're using is your entire action economy to keep on doing dancer stuff. And then none of the dancer stuff is going to be all that great if you go into another class and you want to keep using your turn to, like, do, attacking and whatever. This is it kind of disincentivizes multi-classing somewhat. There are a few, multi-class options I can think of that would really benefit from this, but mostly it's just like monk or monk, yeah. Let me see here. I hope that explanation made sense. But yeah, this is a resource that's not going to regenerate on a short or long rest. You can blow your movement speed to keep getting flare points. So it's a hard thing to balance it around. But like, if we have this game where cantrips exist, so I know that this is possible. Dancer seems very reaction heavy, at least with that subclass. Dancer is very action economy heavy. And I am thinking about what is happening during its action economy. The things I'm keeping in mind are like, okay, if twist is going to be a core thing, I need to figure out like, maybe there's a time where dancer needs to get 2 reactions, like everybody usually gets 1 action, 1 bonus action, 1 reaction in your movement. And it's pretty simple that way, right? It'd be pretty cool if we just gave dancer 2 reactions. Like, I tried something really experimental with merchant being able to get, extra use an object. And like, I tied that to 7th level because I was like, extra use an object is scary good. Scary good. Because, like, especially with the merchant getting bang for your buck, there is so much they can get up to with that. But, extra use an object, I knew was the versatility alone made it so strong, I couldn't give it to people at the same level that they were getting extra attack. I knew that people were going to find a way to figure out how extra use an object was going to be super busted at like 5th level. However, at 7th level, it just feels kind of good. It's experimenting with the idea, but it's not straight up like it's not given so early that I think it creates problems. Let me see here. Oh, yeah. All right. So we're still thinking about burst AC versus flat AC. Now, extra reaction. Maybe a second reaction costs a flare point. Possibly. Possibly. In that case, I would want to give it to them at the same level that they get a plus 15 to their... That'd be 6th level. They're also getting a dangerous genre feature. If this is the case, maybe you should clarify that Flare doesn't gain bonuses when using things like the spell Haste or Boots of Speed. Flare should only work with whatever your base movement speed is, maybe. So Flare initially didn't work with Dash. I wanted to make it to where you couldn't generate points with taking the dash action, right? But like, I felt like the better thing to do would be to, instead of adding these, that's adding an arbitration that I don't like that. I try really hard to avoid adding arbitrations that say like, if you do this, you can't get this new thing, right? That feels kind of, I prefer to say, hey, we have a new way of using a certain thing. So, I removed the need to talk about dash or whatever, just because I'm trying to think of like, how much of this resource can you get, and how powerful is it going to be for you to use that resource. Now, talking about resource generating engines is a really, oh man, this can sound super nerdy talking about game design, but it's an interesting one. And I think it's an important one to talk about whenever you're doing something as experimental as this. Mobile feet, I'm not worried about. I mean, that's another 10 feet of movement. I'm not, like, cool, you can get, more flare points with it. I would expect you to probably take up the mobile feat if you were going Dancer. I do think that, it's going to be powerful. Tabaxi is one that genuinely has me terrified. Tabaxi has a way to move that is super hard to cover. Like, I don't know, writing in a rule that covers the way to limit that, like, Tabaxi agility, the feline agility thing, whatever that is super hard. And I think it's just better to work knowing that that's a thing. So, whenever I've said here on the channel that this limits design space, that Tabaxi thing, the Tabaxi dash thing, is something that limits design space. Because we're looking at we're looking at a racial trait that really prevents us from using movement as a resource very well. But it's something that I'm trying to work around. Maybe a second reaction costs a flare point. Okay. Yeah, like Cobalt Soul Monk. I still need to really get into Cobalt Soul Monk. I just wasn't extremely impressed seeing a lot of the stuff coming out of like Critical Role's homebrew. Matt Mercer is a fantastic storyteller, and I know I could get some hate from Critical Role fans over this. I reviewed the Blood Hunter. Solid. It takes a lot of work to make a class. A lot of work. And it has been changed. I haven't looked at it since. But, like, back in the day, it just felt like that class completely fell off at later levels. But I do applaud Matt Mercer for, getting that thing out. It works. I mean, it's a decent class from, all 20 levels. But no, I haven't looked at stuff like Cobalt Soul Monk quite yet. I looked at Oath of the Open Seas, and, like, we were already kind of finding some problems, exploits that were going on with it. Oath of the Open Seas has a channel divinity that is just straight up way mega, mega, mega busted. And like, I was even looking at other D&D YouTubers that weren't necessarily like design crunch guys like me, and they already found the exploit, so I think they killed off the Bloodhunter character on purpose for that reason. Oh man, hey, I personally loved that character. I think it's generally an okay class, but yeah, it's a little rough. But I'd have to see the new one. But no, after seeing like Echo Knight, Echo Knight, Echo Knight said a lot of things to me, like the fact that that was published in an official book was whoa. That class is so absolutely terrifyingly good. Like, man, Echo Knight it's a kind of class that like, or the kind of subclass that the strength of it isn't really super readily apparent. That thing is stupid strong. It does way too much for you in way too many pillars of play. It is just that feature needs to get some kind of a nerf real hard. Maybe if it was like a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, but the fact that it's just like a completely resourceless, basically a stat block that you can generate an infinite number of times, that needs to get eroded. I know a lot of people like the Echo Knight. I know a lot of people like it. That video has gotten me some hate on this channel. I get it, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy for the game. Like, if we're talking mechanically, Jesus, man, like that class is just way too freaking strong. Yeah, if you I would be okay with Echo Knight if you tied it into maybe a number of uses equal to your proficiency bonus, maybe a number of uses equal to your Constitution modifier, not an infinite resource. That thing is stupid good. You worried about this chest being a mimic? Make your Echo. Go up and whack it. Cool. Your Echo died? No problem. I'm just going to make another. Now we know that chest is a mimic. Like, it just seems like a get out of jail free card for way too many situations. I don't like Echo Knight. Let me rephrase that. I don't like Echo Knight in its current spot, but I like the narrative of it. Okay. Let me get back here. Really creative writing and just love listening to Mercer's storytelling. Mercer is going to always go down as one of our generation's like best storytellers, straight up. Like he introduced a new way of he introduced a new way of he brought the idea of improvised storytelling to like the mass pop culture, The idea of improvised storytelling, yes, we know that this has existed for centuries and whatnot, but like, and I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, because of Mercer D&D is famous, whatever. No, what I am saying is that Matt Mercer made people understand why people enjoy the format, like why people enjoy the experience of the D&D thing, and they made D&D possible. They showed that D&D can be enjoyed as a spectator sport, I mean, I don't allow spectators at my tables, and at least not IRL, but yeah. Echo Knight is stupid in two main ways: stupidly fun and stupidly anti-dungeon crawler. Could be fun. I am way too where I've run very dungeon crawl heavy campaigns that would not be acceptable at my table at all. I can't. I love traps, dude. Like, traps are fun to run. Traps can make for some really interesting stuff in game. And, like, Echo Knight just makes it to where, like, okay, I set off the trap. Let's keep going, guys. Like, I hate it. Yeah. Again, tie it into a resource, then we'll talk. Okay. Woo! Now, twist. Someone said, scrap it. And I'm not far off from agreeing with them. Where was that? Scrap it. This was way far up. It kills casters, that's about it. Yeah, it's not a ton of damage. I don't think it was Ember Shade. I think it was Fencer? I'm not sure. I think someone was talking about it. The Echo Knight is a perfect single player class. I'd agree with that. Yeah, if you didn't mind, your players having, a bit more power because the table sizes were lower, Echo Knight might be totally fine at a 2 or 3 person table. But no, anything at 4 and above, the Echo Knight's stupid busted. Best class for a dungeon master and 1-player campaign. I'd agree with that. Yeah. You want to run a pretty cool solo kind of a campaign? I think Echo Knight would be fine for that. That's interesting. I wonder what other classes. I think Hexblade could do fairly well with that. That's an interesting thought. I wonder what other subclasses could do pretty well with that. I mean, the first one that came to mind was Beastmaster, if you tweaked it a little bit. Reaction you can make whenever a creature moves towards you. If you can see each other, and the creature's within 60 feet of you, as a reaction you can spend 1 flare. Wait. Hang on, the wording on this is kind of funky now. As a reaction, you can make whenever a creature moves towards you. Whenever a creature within 60 feet of you moves towards you, I'm starting to just really not like this. I just don't know that I like this mechanic enough. I don't think it's doing enough for you to where it justifies really being here. And I think that this class ultimately is going to be better to just get rid of Twist. Although the problem is going to be that what I like is that we do have 1, 2, 3 different options that you can use with Flare, which is cool, right? It syncs up with Monk. But they don't have anything even remotely comparable to Flurry of Blows. Except scaling support mechanic. Wait, Flurry of Blows is you can use a bonus action, expend 1 key point, and you can essentially take the attack action twice as a bonus action. What if we did, you can take the help action twice as a bonus action. How much better is that? Will the Dancer be an actual good Monk multi-class option? I don't think so. I think that a lot of what's going on with the Dancer is going to be forcing you towards a very support-heavy playstyle. And if you are, possibly if you're wanting to go into, we talked about this Capoeira sort of a build, I think that would possibly make sense as a... it does actually help you with attack rolls, Blastic. If you're in a certain wording, and I gotta go through and do that in the same way that it does with Mastermind Rogue. But the thought with Monk is that they get some features that scale off of different ability scores. Monk has their unarmed defense that scales off of Dex plus Wiz. This, actually, wait, the unarmored movement. This would give you unarmored movement, and the way that I wrote unarmored movement, it comes with a caveat. Yeah, help can help with attack rolls if you're within 5 feet. Help needs to help with attack rolls if you're within 30 feet for this dancer. So I need to steal the wording that's from Mastermind Rogue. But I think that's an amazing support feature. Yeah, if you can't really do anything with your turn, but somebody else is going to benefit from doing something else with their turn, take the health action or the dodge action. Like, seriously read the 9th chapter of the Player's Handbook. Okay, that is the most important chapter of that entire... Is it 9th or 8th? Wait, I thought it was 9th, right? And, of course, Amanda's got the car, so she's got all the Player's Handbooks in there. Speed increases by 10 feet while you're not wearing armor or wearing a shield. I wrote this very intentionally because unarmored movement, I didn't want there to be a problem with Monk. If another class grants you an unarmored movement feature, you can use whichever feature grants you the higher increase, not both. So that way, you don't arbitrarily go multi-class over in the Monk for 2 levels and get, like, an increase of 10 feet that this class doesn't get you until, like, what is it, 8 levels later? So, yeah, I didn't want to do that. I hope that makes sense, but yeah. So, if you were to multi-class over in the Monk, I think there's some things that would be a little bit redundant. Break a leg would definitely be helpful. Although, I don't think Monk necessarily always wants to be going, like, super, super high in initiative order. But it's there. I think I might get rid of this. You can use the health action thing as an action, bonus action, and reaction. Even though it makes sense. I don't know. I'll take that down. Fierce Tenacity, I think, is absolutely perfect. I absolutely love this feature. I love what this says about the dancer. Oh man, I don't want this to move anywhere. Let me catch back up with chat real quick. Attack rolls, there we go. Discouraging multi-classing seems... I only really discourage multi-classing if a very clear... If it's very clear that the option benefits in a way that makes it better to multi-class than just to go with the base class. Like, if you want to go for a certain character type, or, like, you think of a certain combo that's kind of cool, that's fine. That's whatever. But, like, if it becomes objectively better to just multi-class, rather than to take the character option that you presented, then I don't think that your character option is all that strong. I think that your character option at that point, like, is there a multi-class that we can look at that we can say is just so much better than going full on with that class? Part of the reason why Wizards of the Coast, they released that Ranger Unearthed Arcana, and they had a feature in there called Tireless that they found out they couldn't give to Ranger at first level, because what it wound up doing was making Berserker Barbarian suddenly super, super viable as long as you multi-classed over into Ranger. So that was a situation where multi-classing became so much better than taking, like, Berserker Barbarian at all. Hey, good night, Freezy. It was good seeing you, man. So, like, this argument of, like, multiple ability dependency and whatnot. The thing is, you're not usually multi-classing because you're looking at features because of, like, cool, I have this one ability score that's pretty high, right? You're usually taking that to take features that have a mechanic that's in there that you can use that doesn't always rely on an ability score. So that's why whenever we look at scaling off a proficiency bonus, that starts to get a little scary. You can just design a character that is so is so strong just because of proficiency bonus scaling that, like, they wind up not having a signature class whatsoever. And I guess some people are cool with that. I just don't think it's great for storytelling, and it just sounds like a Munchkin kind of a thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, good night, Freezy. Let me see here. And then keeping the health action at 5 feet might allow the dancer to show off their movement. That is actually a fair point, except for the fact that the only problem I have with that is thinking about how that interacts with Mastermind. Because Mastermind, when you take the health action to aid an ally in attacking a creature, the target of the attack can be within 30 feet of you rather than 5 feet of you if the target can see or hear you. That is, because this is here, it would mean that the ability that we're trying to create would wind up being... It would be so much better for you to multiclass over into Mastermind Rogue for 3 levels to pick this up if we don't make this a core part of this. Because this is changing something that's going to be foundational to this dancer. So we're going to keep that for right now. And I do think that there's a way to write it to where it's actually really strong for narrative. It's funny because the dancer is going to wind up finally sort of feeling like a warlord in a way, which I'm down with. Okay, the only one that comes to mind is Cleric Druid, or maybe the 1-level dip in Fighter for the rest Wizard. Hexblade is... Whenever Hexblade came out... Now, Cleric is still an amazing 1-level dip, right? That is such a good 1-level dip. But whenever Hexblade came out, Warlock suddenly shot up as, like, the strongest 1-level dip in the game. Because that Hexblade's curse is so good. And then it turns out that, you know what else you can get at first level with Warlock that's just great on everybody? Eldritch Blast. Because that's going to level up alongside you. So, like, you know, if you wanted to stick around for 2 levels and grab Agonizing Blast, that's a thing. But, like, yeah, it's ridiculously strong. I think Ross once said that a Sorcerer Paladin was super OP as a multi-class, but I think that's what he said. Sorcerer Paladin is... Sorcerer... A lot of people say that the highest damage output you can possibly get is with Warlock. Well, Warlock might have the biggest spike. Like, they can unleash the biggest Nova in one turn, but Sorcerer Paladin has the most damage, like, consistently that they can do across multiple different turns because of the wording of Divine Smite. Because Divine Smite can work with spell slots that you gain from other classes, means that you can keep loading that up with some of your Sorcerer spell slots, because you're going to get a lot more of those a lot quicker. So, like, what is it? You can go Sorcerer... Is it Sorcerer 18, Paladin 2? I was trying to remember. Because Ross even showed this to me. Where do you get Divine Smite? Yeah, 2nd level. I think the build for, like, 20th level, I guess if you were trying to, you know, solve for D&D, is actually going to be, you go into Paladin for 2, all the way to Divine Smite. It might be worth it to go pick up your Sacred Oath, because some of those Channel Divinities are really good. And then you're still able to go get all the way to 9th level spells with Sorcerer if you do that. So, like, go into Paladin for 3 levels, pop into Sorcerer, and then an old classic, just Divine Soul, man. This subclass is so good. God, you want to talk about what's going to be, like, Divine Soul, I think is, like, possibly my favorite subclass in the game. And I love a lot of the narrative of these different subclasses, guys. But Divine Soul just makes perfect sense. Synergizes very well with the Paladin. Inflict Wounds is there. So you can do Inflict Wounds. And, like, oh my god. This is insane. Let me see here. You should probably have a paladin-like effect where once dancers can help at 30 feet, helping within, say, 10 feet would have an additional effect. You know, if we're going to make the help action the big thing that the dancer can do, I think it only makes sense that you need to be able to do that. Yes, I do like that idea a lot. Also, remember, I think you shouldn't go for small buffs for everyone and instead focus a focus buff on someone, because him being based in sight means that races without dark vision don't get your buffs. Yeah, in certain situations, yes. I think one of the cool things could be that one of the subclasses is able to, like, illuminate themselves. I think that could be a really cool thing for the Fae kind of jig. You know, like, you illuminate with dancing lights around you kind of thing. That feels so cool. I think of something very cinematic with that, right? Like, I try to think of, just say, like, some kind of scene in, like, a Studio Ghibli movie or something. Oh, crap. Oh, one sec. Let me send her. Amanda, go. Okay. There we go. Tap danger can do it based on sound in addition to sight. So, what might be cool, and what might be kind of cool, is to do it as a, like, so we can build a scaffolding. This might be a fun opportunity to talk about this. So, for those of you that don't know, because, like, I've talked about this on the channel before, whenever you're designing a subclass, all subclasses in D&D follow something of what we... this is a super unofficial term. But it's just one that I've used because I think it was Mike Hollick from Magehand Press say it in our interview. And then I heard, like, another designer say it, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. Turns out it isn't. But it's called scaffolding. So, I'll get to you, Ethan. So scaffolding is... what we figured out is a bunch of the different subclasses tend to follow something of a pattern. Where, if you look at, like... Oh, I was just doing the one for Artificer the other day, right? Oh, do I not have that up? Okay. I think the one that's the most apparent is Paladin. And Paladin has to be very, very structured this way. Because, number one, not only do they already have a precedent for it, but number two, Paladin's power budget is so eaten up by the base class that, like, they have to keep their subclasses very, very hard in check. So, what Paladin gets is... Wait, oh, those are optional class features. Okay, let's look at Oath of Conquest. By the way, great subclass. Go watch the video if you haven't already. Oath of Conquest. The thing that you get your Oath spells. So you get, we know with Paladin, at third level, you're always going to get an expanded spell list, and then 2 Channel Divinity options. One of them is usually an offensive Channel Divinity in some sort of a way. And then the other one is helping to define a little bit about the role that you're going to play in combat. So, like, Conquering Presence right here is sort of a control-like feature, where you're trying to frighten other creatures, right? This is a very indirect sort of a thing. Aura of Conquest, we all know that Paladins all get an aura of some kind at 7th level that usually gets an increase or an enhancement to that at 18th level. At 15th level, I believe it's usually some sort of an... What was it? Yeah, it's usually a defensive feature, if I remember right. Defensive, Undying Sentinel, defensive, Oath of the Open Sea. This is Matt Mercer, so I don't know. Exits your melee range, so that's an offensive feature. Oath of the Watchers, 15th level, Rebuke. That's an offensive feature. Okay, and then defensive. So it seems like the ones that were designed, at least during the Mike Merle's era, were usually defensive features. Like Purity of Spirit, you are always under the effects of a protection of good or good and evil spell. Like, I mean, that's so insane. But yeah, usually like you're getting some kind of a defensive feature at 15th level. If you want to go off of newer paladins, they seem to be going towards offensive in a way. And then your 20th level capstone is some sort of a state that you're put into for 1 minute that usually gives you like remarkable strength. And we're talking about the kind of things that like a 9th level spell would probably get you, and this lasts for 1 minute. Like Invincible Conqueror, you have resistance to all damage. Whenever you take the attack action on your turn, you can make one additional attack as a part of that action, and your melee weapon attacks score a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20 on the d20. That's so good. So good. Invincible Conqueror is sick. Let me see here. I'm honestly not sure what we had so far. Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha. But that was the start of our discussion about scaffolding, right? So I like to work off of a scaffolding, and I like to kind of figure that out before we get super, super hard into the different subclasses, what that scaffolding is going to be. So, like for the choreos, I had this idea of they would all get some kind of a flourish or dance. If you end your turn, so I had this idea where they were all going to get some kind of a special move, like here at 3rd level, and then like something that was going to really define their playstyle at 3rd level. 6th level was going to be possibly a sort of defensive feature. I don't know. Scaffolding is a very, very. This is a part of like homebrew design that I try not to adhere to super, super hard, because I think it can really pigeonhole you into a kind of stale design for all your subclasses. But it is a helpful guide, and you can start it out and see that like if there's some kind of a through line, the narrative of a class can get built up pretty easy. And it just looks pretty. Yeah, subconsciously. Amanda just came home. Okay, guys, I think we've been live streaming for about 2 hours and 40 minutes, so I think I'm going to call that a night. Go hang out with her for a little bit. So, the VOD for this should be up. Hey, I'm live streaming. The VOD for this should be up probably, I don't know, within the next few hours, or maybe tomorrow. But yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more work on this, and then we may be doing a dance like live stream, like a dancer live stream. I don't know, sometime next week.
Sorry, I have pizza.
Oh, nice. Do you
want a slice or?
Yeah, I'll take some here in a second.
Bye, everyone.
Let me catch up with some of these questions, and then I'll head out. Actually wanted to say this for a while. I thought your merchant class 1 to 2 days before it became free, but that's okay because I don't know how to donate, so that was my way. Oh, hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm glad I was able to get it before it became free. Hey, I appreciate that. If you feel like donating to the channel in any way, like super chats here, I just got approved for those. Or like if you want to support me over on Patreon, I do have a donate button over on my website at just www.indestructibleBoy.com. Yes, Zandy, that's exactly why. I'm moving a lot of my content off of the Dungeon Masters Guild for a couple of reasons. I haven't made a video on that because I don't really know exactly what kind of good that would do. I also still collaborate with several other writers over on the Dungeon Masters Guild, so I don't want to possibly release something that, while it was helping my, letting my viewers know what was going on, I didn't want it to damage anybody that had like worked with me's reputations. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna talk about that at some point. But yeah, I am trying to move all my stuff over to be totally free over on my website. Some of it may be Patreon exclusive with a paid timed exclusive. But yeah, I'm trying to get away from the Dungeon Masters Guild. So that's the long and short of it. But I do appreciate your support. Thank you so much. We'll see you later, Psycho. Spencer, wanted to ask before you left, would an acrobat subclass work like in circuses, stuff like tightropes? Wizards of the Coast was doing an acrobat rogue in the Unearthed Arcana. What was this, like 3 years ago? That was going to be in Xanthar's Guide. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think the idea was there, but like it was another one of those subclasses where I think we have these ideas for like it makes sense as a rogue, but then we're like, okay, but D&D is a combat simulator, so how can we make it relevant in combat solely based off of the idea that it's an acrobat? And that got to be a little tricky. So I don't remember seeing it. I'll need to look at it again and see if that was still a thing. But how would I do that? Like, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind might be that, like, you can, like, there's rules for squeezing, but they're so situational. It might be a rule that says, like, you count as one size smaller when squeezing into a space or something. Was it a bard subclass? God, I guess that, I don't know. You've really got to think about what you wanted to do in combat first, and I just don't think that they really felt that, like, I think that they felt like it was about to start treading on the water of Knowledge Domain Cleric, and not stepping on its toes, but sort of violating the same kind of problems that we had with Knowledge Domain, where Knowledge Domain is a great, if you're out of combat, like, you know, roleplay class, it's super great for that, but like in combat, it just doesn't do anything, you know, so yeah. I remember Mike Burles talking about that, the same as keeping the curve across all classes. This is something that helps you do that, building up the scaffolding like that. Because then if you're thinking, cool, I have this defensive feature that does, let's say, gives you a proficiency in a saving throw. Well, Samurai getting that at 7th level already puts their 7th level defensive ability way above what Champion Fighter gets. Because Champion, they get, like, cool, a small bonus on checks that you most likely already have proficiency in. Like, who cares, you know? But if you get proficiency in wisdom saving throws, that is a super strong saving throw. And what it allows you to do is, let's say you just give something wisdom proficiency, wisdom saving throw proficiency. I would say that you could go over and give something like charisma or intelligence saving throw proficiency, as well as a little bit of a mechanical boost because of how strong wisdom saving throw proficiency is. It gives you a lot of design space if you build up a scaffolding like that, in some pretty interesting ways. So yeah. Do you keep a version of the Dancer class insofar as you developed it publicly available? It'd be nice to read through it. I haven't yet. That might not be a bad idea. I could make the PDF available so that you can go check it out over on my website. You know what? I'll experiment with that for this one. I will keep like a design diary of this available over on my website. So I will do that. What is today? The 7th? 2021. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll do a design diary of it over on my website. Might also help out if people wanted to give like a little bit of, I don't know, feedback or whatever. Yeah, cool. I'll do that. Cool. Thank you for the idea. Anyways, thank you all for being here. Super fun live stream. I'm glad to be doing these again. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments section. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all my Patreon sponsors for helping me keep the lights on around here. And yeah, if you guys like what you see, why not go ahead and subscribe?